Hey, good day, fellow deal makers. Welcome to the Deal Scout. On this show, we travel around looking at deals and bringing in deal makers to have conversations that, one, I can learn, and two, as an audience, if you hear something cool that you're listening to about the deal, all the contact information of our guests will be in the show notes below. So you can reach out to them and say, hey, heard you on the show. Let's do a deal together. All right. So we've had a lot of people who come on the show talking about, commercial real estate and acquisition and buying, multifamily, investing in commercial real estate. But I wanted to bring someone who works on the other side of the coin, who helps actually build them, fix them, maybe help you flip them. So with that, we're bringing on Matt to the show. Matt, welcome to the Deal Scout.
Hey, thanks, Josh. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. Now you're in the frigid north. Where are you guys located?
We're in Michigan. We're about 45 minutes northwest of Detroit.
Okay, right on, right on. Well, appreciate you being on the show. Why don't you give us an idea of who you are?
Yeah, so I'm the president and majority owner of Schafer Construction. We're a small scale commercial general contractor. We build everything other than single family homes. Primarily operate in about a 2 hour radius from where we're at. Our office is in Brighton, like I mentioned. Um, and yeah, we specialize in a different kind of form of construction and helping owners really put their deals together. We focus on true design build. So the client will hire us first, and then we will actually go out and find them land, find them all the design consultants, obviously hire out all the construction. So it's really a turnkey kind of concept through completion model that we practice.
Cool. Now, how come it's not called Vetter Construction? Why is it Schaefer? Was this an acquisition on your part?
It was, and it still is. It's an acquisition in progress. So my business partner, Stan Schaefer, started the company 25 years ago. I bought in as a partner 5 years ago now, and we're in the process of kind of finalizing some last things, and then Stan will go off and sail into the sunset.
On his yacht or his sailboat, and then you continue swinging hammers. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, how'd you get into the game of construction?
When I started building houses when I was in high school, late high school, at the time, it was good money. It was cash under the table. Gave me a good workout, so I kept my physique up, and it kept me out of some trouble. Um,
Yeah.
and I fell in love with it. I've kind of bounced around through different phases of residential and landed in construction or commercial rather here, and I can't get enough.
Yeah, I grew up on a construction site in South Florida, and that's how I kept my girly figure for a while. But my dad and I, we did a lot of mostly rehab, kitchens and bathrooms.
Okay.
I was the demo guy. So when you got your start in construction, what was your kind of like your first job in construction? What was your task?
I was the lumber boy.
The
I
lumber
moved
boy.
piles of 2x4s from one spot to another spot, and I'd move them again. And I learned over the years that most of the time there really was no purpose in me moving that lumber other than to kind of toughen me up and make me realize that I was a low man in the totem pole.
Yeah, yeah. But you get pretty good at carrying a piece of plywood or two or three or different two by fours. But it's good for a young man to carry heavy stuff, right?
Absolutely, it,
Yeah,
it teaches you a value of hard work. I wouldn't be where I am now without it. I'm sure of that.
totally. All right. So you said you started in residential, right? Moving lumber.
Yeah. Yep.
Me too. And then you got into commercial. Why do you feel that you wanted to make the switch over from the residential side to commercial side?
So in the early 2000s, I owned my own residential company. We did, smaller scale projects, decks, garages, finished basements. In the Michigan market or Detroit market, especially, the big three auto execs are huge. And so we were doing $250,000 finished basements all the time. And it was tons of fun and great money, a lot of creative latitude. In '07, really, we started seeing those clients kind of dry up. And it was
Yeah.
almost like the auto guys knew what was coming. And, one thing led to another. In '08, I was presented with an opportunity to kind of start a program that would catapult me into the commercial realm. And I jumped in head first. So it was kind of by necessity, but it's worked out almost as if it was by design.
Yeah, super cool. You mentioned that you did decks and basements and such. I'm in the process of, and I might need to do this myself, building a privacy fence. So I might need you to come down and swing a hammer with me, bring back some old memories
There
of
you go.
swinging
No
hammers.
problem.
Got
I
it.
still have the tool bags.
Sounds good. So, Matt, you dove into commercial real estate kind of head first, started in 2008, where you got your first foray. What were some of the differences you saw early on between residential and commercial? It may be obvious, but I want to dig into that a little bit.
Um, there's two main differences. One is money. You make more money in commercial. You also charge more money in commercial. The other is pace. Um, the pace of work and the demand of schedule in commercial is so fast and so much greater than residential that it really was an eye opener. It continues to be, and that's where a lot of people struggle. We have guys, approach us that are doing residential now and want to come work on our team, and truth be told, a lot of them can't hack it because the speed at which we have to operate is so much different than where those guys are.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to go fast because a business has to stay operational. So if they're doing renovations or projects, they got to get back up and running. And construction sometimes is a necessity. We did a few renovations in a mall, so we had to go. I was in middle school, but after hours we would go 9 o'clock and work till 4 in the morning, clean up, and then I'd go back to school the next day. So you work business hours sometimes, and then after hours. What When you got into the company about 5 years ago, what inspired you to want to, like, did you always know you wanted to buy into this business and become owner and take over it, or was it a job getting started?
So I was, like I mentioned, I had a couple different of my own companies. I was approached in early 2010, 2011 by a large local firm. I ended up working for them, running their pre-construction department for a number of years. And it got to the point where I realized, I'm a terrible employee. I don't want to have a
Me
direct
too.
boss. I wanted skin in the game again. I have that entrepreneurial blood in me. So I didn't always envision buying into the company where I'm at now, but I knew that at some point again I would own my own company. And again, it's the land of opportunities we live in, and as long as you're ready to jump on them when they come knocking, that's what you need to do to keep moving, and that's what happened.
Yeah. So you've been with this organization 5 years, become the majority owner. What have you found are the projects that you like the most?
So we've really broadened our scope. Like I mentioned, we'll build everything aside from single family homes, but we've done some really neat stuff where we built a community center about a year and a half ago. So indoor basketball courts and walking tracks. And,
Cool.
it was during the midst of the COVID shutdown. So building something to rebuild community again after everything opened was pretty cool. Had a lot of heartstrings pulled. We're working right now with a local nonprofit that provides shelter services for women and children. So that again is, it's the projects that kind of, there's more meaning to them than just steel, but it doesn't matter what it is. It's if you're building multifamily, you're building homes, you're creating futures, you're broadening your culture by building new facilities in your community, and that to me is what really kind of makes me tick.
Now, in Michigan, I'm a Florida guy, and I lived in Michigan for a brief time. I chased a girl up there, Grand Rapids, actually.
Okay.
It gets cold up there. How in the world are you building stuff when it's so cold outside?
I've been in the Midwest at least my entire life. I was born in Chicago area and been here since. So it's just fact of life. I mean, you got to get creative. We, my guys on the earthwork crews that are working through the winter for me are real happy that they have heated cabs. We'll
Yeah.
put it that way. And, you learn to get creative. You learn to work around the worst of the weather. And, as long as you can keep schedules, you can make it work pretty well.
Sounds cool. Sounds cool. Um, so the community center, nonprofit, in your years of doing this, like what do you think has been the largest project you've ever worked on?
personally, for now, this nonprofit organization is it's largest in size. It's largest in contract value. Previously, when I was working for someone else, I mean, we built world headquarters for Fortune 500 companies. So
Cool.
I've built and seen a lot. But again, now that where I'm at now, it's a different scale, right? So we're still growing. We're growing pretty damn well right now, actually. But the size of the projects I'm building now are not the largest I've ever seen yet.
Super cool. So this will be helpful for other, business owners, especially in the construction industry, but also for owners, property managers, and owner operators of these groups who want to rehab, or they want to add value to, they might have some land, they want to do some value add stuff. Bidding jobs, right? That's something that takes a very long time to learn, or assumption. I never got into that. But bidding the job right is super important from day one. What are some things you've learned, and what's some advice you have on the bidding side that will help deal makers on the back end?
You're right. It does take a long time to learn, long time to master. It's estimating and bidding. It's really a blend of art and science, and especially the way we do things. We start very, very early, so very conceptual based projects where napkin sketches. And we can provide very, very accurate budgeting at that level, within plus or minus. Before the last year is plus or minus 5%. Now we've stretched it a bit, it's plus or minus 10% for the market. But the biggest thing I could say is it's never too early to get started. Yeah. Whether you're an owner, an operator, or anyone else, the earlier you team up with someone like our firm and get us involved and get us working on your behalf, the better you'll be. Especially in today's market, if you don't have to even know construction to know what's going on out there. The volatility in commodity pricing is nothing I've ever seen in my career. Yeah. And so to team up with someone who truly has a pulse on that pricing and what the heck is going on a day-to-day basis is going to save you money. It's going to save your project potentially down the road. So it's never too early to start.
One of our advisory clients, we saw them with the pricing changes and such. We saw them bid a project, and by the time they were even starting the project, they priced themselves out of a project, right? So they started implementing things in the contract for price increases due to supply. What do you guys do? We're in a situation in the economy where there's a lot of inflation. It's hard to get windows. It's hard to get product. What do you guys do to protect your bottom line and your company?
Yeah, a situation is putting it lightly. We are definitely in a situation right now.
Yeah.
Contractually, we've added in escalation clauses like everybody else has. We have to. I'll be honest, they're tough to negotiate because neither side wants to take on that added risk. But you have to start from somewhere, and we come to amicable terms with our clients now, and we have safety nets in place. So if windows all of a sudden double in price, then we have to insulate ourselves from that so that we can keep operating. Yeah. In terms of logistics and just strategic operations, we've started operating and doing things very differently in the last year and a half, whereby our job sites now, they look like storage yards. Yeah. We have shipping containers lined up, and it's like on day one, I tell my entire team, go buy everything you need to as soon as you possibly can. We'll store it here. We'll keep it secure. We have a project now with trailers full of rooftop units that won't be installed for another 6 months, but we have to do that in order to keep things moving. And there's a lot of risk involved in building right now on our side, because we typically do guaranteed maximum price contracts, and mm-hmm. How those contracts work. There's not a whole lot of leeway at the end if something goes bust. So we've gotten pretty good at acclimating and early ordering, getting different lines of credit with vendors. It's everything you can do right now.
Yeah, no, it's super smart, and it's almost a necessity, because if you price out the project and go in phases, by the time you get to phase 3, it might get super expensive, and you might lose all your profit there. From swinging hammers residential to now focusing on as an owner, you're focusing on employees, culture, you're focused on bottom line. How did you learn this stuff, and what are you learning?
I learned it the hard way. I learned it, school of hard knocks. And I learned it from making a whole lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
So I've taken my bumps and bruises and I've bled a lot. And, what I've learned is that culture overcomes a lot of the business ineptitude, right? And if you can build a solid culture with a solid team, the rest of it can kind of fall into place and can be learned. You can't learn culture. You can't learn how to be a leader. You have to have it in you. And that has been kind of my driving force. And, we are very big on our core values. We're very big on our culture. We're very big on this team mentality that extends far beyond the walls of us now 7 people. It's the hundreds of guys on our job sites. It's all of those companies, all of, their families. When I go to bed at night, I tend to think about that, like, damn, I'm feeding 200 mouths today, and that's what kind of that allowed me to move into the role I am now and kind of pick up the business acumen along the way. Cause it's just, it's a learn as you go type environment a lot of times, especially in construction, I think.
Yeah. What do you think? So, what do you think the future of craftsmen, of tradesmen? What does that look like? What challenges are you seeing with skilled trades?
It's bleak right now. We are on a collision course for disaster across the skilled trades. And so I run a podcast also, the Construction Corner, and we talk a lot about this, about, the philosophy of the blue collar badass. And, as a society in the last 20 plus years, we've allowed different groups, different motivations to strip shop classes out of high schools and to really downplay the value of the skilled tradesmen. And, that we pump that college is the only way to go. And if you don't go to college, you're a failure and, blah, blah, blah. When in reality, these are the men and women that are building America, that are keeping us afloat, that are, providing investment tools for investors, that are providing jobs for the tradesmen. And construction is one of the very few industries that it literally can't go away, right? Our buildings, no matter how good we build them, they have a lifespan. And at some point in time, they're going to have to be renovated. They're going to have to be fixed, torn down, rebuilt. So if we don't fix this problem in a very near future, we're going to have a massive problem on our hands because there's nobody left. The average age of a construction worker in our area is like 56, right?
Wow.
And as those folks start retiring, what are we left with? And so, there's grassroots efforts that we team up with. There's a lot of groups out there trying to help, and it's about organizing. It's about getting the word out and really pushing these careers as a viable option. When I was in high school, even though I was in construction, being in construction for the rest of my life was never an option. It was thumped on me that you got to go to college, you got to go to college. And I did, got a degree on my wall back here that means literally nothing to me. All the while, though, I had friends who left high school and started working as electrical apprentices, and they were making $250,000 a year by the time I was graduating with nothing but debt. We just, as a society, we have to get back to that mentality that these positions are so crucial to our very fabric.
Yeah. Yeah. Blue collar badasses. I like that. That might be the title of today's episode. And I see this. I see this happen even in our hometown, where I see construction projects that are far delayed, and they have signs out front like hiring, like we need people who know how to swing hammers.
Yeah.
And it's such a noble, career. It's a great way to make money fixing stuff and building stuff. So let me ask you this: for future generations, do you have kids?
I do. Three
Oh,
boys.
cool. Congratulations. Oh, 3 boys. There's your construction company. The future of it right there.
Stocking them up. Yep.
Yeah. Cheap labor.
Yeah.
So the future, if, talking to your boys, and I've got 3 kids, right? Like what advice do you have for them, in regards to what you see, the challenges with skills trade? Where are the opportunities for future generations?
Oh, the opportunities are endless, right? If you learn that very first thing of hard work and work ethic, whether it's by moving lumber around or doing whatever, digging ditches, if you learn to work hard and build that grit, you can you can scale any mountain. You can create any company you can imagine, because again, construction goes nowhere. You can't replace it, but with robots, we can automate some things and we can bring technology in, but you can't get rid of the construction force itself. And my oldest is 15, and we're having these conversations on a very regular basis. And I push him to do whatever he wants. If he wants to go to college, fine. I'm not knocking that. College is a great route for some people. However, it's not the route for all people. And I just tell him that, listen, we need to figure out what you're interested in. And if it's working on a construction crew, if it's eventually being an entrepreneur and owning your own company, there's different paths to get there. And you just got to back the kids and push them to find what they really, what they're turned on by mentally.
Yeah. Yeah. Super cool. I loved construction, but there's different aspects of the construction site. Now I got my PhD, right? The post hole digger. I spent my time digging posts and footers and such like that. And I put in the blood, sweat, tears and time into it. And in my mind, it's my, dad was encouraging this, go to college. I got a heavy debt load because of that, right? And a lot of times we don't even use the degrees or the education that we go to school for. When it comes to the skilled trade, when it comes to that, the blue collar workforce, right? What industries do you think are great opportunities for, the entrepreneurs coming out, the entrepreneurs and hard workers coming out to the workforce? Where should they be focusing in that?
As far as trades, selfishly, I'm always going to say carpentry. That's where I was trained as a carpenter. We see a lot of business owners now, whether they're GCs or specialty contractors that came up through the ranks of carpentry. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of reasons for that. Carpenters kind of drive the schedule, right? They're the guys that are on site the longest or the most of anyone. So, if my son were coming to me to ask what my opinion was, and I was not trying to sway him other directions, I would definitely push to get into carpentry. You learn the guts of a building that way. And
totally.
I think that's the route.
Super cool. Now you have a podcast show. Give it a shout out. And why did you start it?
So our show's called The Construction Corner. I co-host with my good buddy, Dylan Mitchell. Dylan actually started it, I think, about 4 years ago now. I was always interested in podcasting. I called Dylan one day about 2 years ago, asking him for recommendations on microphones and, what the heck I needed to make this happen. And he said, well, here's what you need, this, and this. And why don't you just come co-host with me? And 2 years later, here we are.
Boom. Awesome. What has been your favorite thing about podcasting?
The relationships you form, right? Totally. It's all about conversations. We don't monetize it. We could, but we haven't done any advertising. But we have really interesting people on every week and really great conversations. And we've done deals with people that we've had on the show. We've created long-lasting relationships that I now know people around the country I can rely on for different facets of what we do.
Yeah, super cool, man. So the Construction Corner, people can find that on iTunes, Google, and anywhere else podcasts are found?
Yeah, we're on all the platforms.
Heck yeah, that's awesome, man. So now let's go on the rehab side of things. You got a lot of people buying multifamily and buying and building, build for rent communities and rehabbing those places. But on the commercial side, for deal makers, what are some things to consider when looking at a commercial building to buy on, from your perspective of, construction?
It really depends on what your investment goals are. So, for example, we're seeing a lot of conversion activity right now where investors, developers come to us and they want to buy a building that's being used for X. They want to convert it into Y. Great example is self-storage. It's an incredibly hot market right now. Mm-hmm. And guys are buying up, or people are buying up these buildings that, warehouses or even office space we've seen and converting them into storage. The biggest thing I can recommend is do your due diligence. Team up with a true design builder who's going to walk you through the whole process, because renovation comes at typically a lower cost than ground up construction. That's the allure of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't if you're not careful and if you miss something that you should have caught. If that roof doesn't really just need some patching and it turns out it needs to be completely torn off and replaced, that's a huge bust. If you find that there's contamination in the building, there's a whole litany of things that could happen and really turn into a wasp nest if you're not careful. So I would say just team up with someone who can lead you through that process very, very early so that you don't make a costly mistake that could literally kill the project. Some of these things are deal breakers, right? And if you get up into multiple six figures of a oops, that's a bad day for everybody involved, and it can typically be avoided.
Yeah, we've seen a local project that it was supposed to be an easy renovation. Well, not easy. It was supposed to be a renovation, right? They got into the project and then they had to do a complete tear down and rebuild from scratch. That wasn't
That,
in the original price budget. That wasn't, and that probably cost a few jobs,
oh
right?
yeah, it's a bad day.
How could you prevent that from happening? Right. So bring in a crew like yours, but what are you looking at that other people might miss?
We're going to come in with a team. We're going to bring in a structural engineer. We're going to bring our architect. We're going to bring in our environmental consultants. We're going to test everything. Obviously, get a phase one going immediately. Most banks require that now, anyways, for financing. But asbestos testing, NESHAP reports. We look at everything as a holistic system, so then we can go back to the owner or the investor and say, here's the assessment of this building. We think the roof has 10 years of usable life left. We think the HVAC has 5 years of usable life left. And here's why. And so we can kind of show them and then at least provide data, and then as you, the investor or the owner, you can now make a better informed decision. Okay, I'm getting this building for this cost, but here's what I'm going to have to budget for in the next 5 to 10 years. And we can kind of lay out that whole structure so that you can decide, is this really that great of a deal or is it not?
Yeah. Is it really a good deal or not? And that comes from my dad used to always say, do your homework. Wasn't really
Yeah.
good at it, but do your homework, right? From doing the podcast, back to podcasts. I love podcasts. What has been your favorite moment from doing this, being a podcast host for the last 2 years? What has been one of your favorite moments?
So 99% of our podcasts are all remote. It's all like this on Zoom. Mm-hmm. We did a podcast with a group of two brothers that own a flooring company in New York City. Actually, I had the chance to meet them in person pretty recently at a summit in St. Louis, and shaking hands and having that relationship continue. And the one guy looked at me and said, he's like, I never thought I would say this, but being on your show was the best thing that's ever happened to us. I said, wow, we're not that big of a show at all. Wow, cool. But he goes, I had aunts and uncles and my grandmother calling me saying they were so proud that you boys were on a podcast and you got all this exposure and, nationwide exposure. So that was definitely one of the highlights for me so far.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. I really like that. I said aw, right? Like that was my natural reaction. I'm like,
right,
man,
right.
That's recorded on there. But like that's super cool, man, because growing up in a construction household, like you get very little accolades. There's not awards unless you're like a new home builder, but you're competing with the big. There's very little attaboys in the industry. If people hate you, you'll see it all over Yelp and Google and such like that. But
Yeah.
very few people go, man, good job, kid. That's awesome, right?
That is the blue collar badass mentality, right? These guys and these girls, they love telling their stories, but very, very few opportunities to tell those stories to anyone. And that's what we try and do on the podcast, as we do with the construction company too, is let's give these people a voice and bring this collective team together in a way that the industry hasn't ever seen.
Yeah, I like that, man. Super cool, super cool. I've got a friend that I'll introduce you to, and you'll have a great conversation. Maybe get him on your show or something. But
Great.
yeah, it's super cool what you're doing. What's the future of Matt look like in Schafer Construction? You look like a young guy, not too many grays up there. Like,
No,
what's that look like?
I think the Zoom camera helps that, but we're growing at leaps and bounds. We've now 30x'd our revenue in 5 years. and my projections are to keep it moving. A couple of my mentors, Andy Frisella and Ed Milet, they always talk about, as a leader, your vision has to be so damn big that the visions of all of your people can fit inside it. And so our targets, our revenue targets that I've set up over the last few years, well, we've hit them and then we've crushed them. And now it's like, all right, my vision's got to get way bigger. So we are taking this construction company to levels that I never even thought were going to be possible, and that's what I want to get to.
What is one thing you did? Like if you looked back 30x ago, right? 30x in revenue, that's pretty significant. Unless it was zero, right? 30 times zero is zero. But right. So looking back, what's the one thing that you saw that made the biggest impact to that 30x revenue?
Culture.
Really?
And it's, and it's not it sounds like a foo-foo kind of thing, and on the cusp it may be, but honest to God, building that culture and our core values and starting from a new foundation has allowed us to attract better employees, attract better specialty contractors, attract better clients. And that is the key. We've gotten to a point where we can be selective now. Building houses or even in my early years in commercial, I would work for any single person who had a paycheck or a checkbook rather. And there's there's pluses and minuses and that sort of thing. But now we've taken this to a new level where we've developed our prototype clientele, right? Our prototype employee, our prototype partners, and using that model has really allowed us to scale at leaps and bounds. And it wasn't from zero, but it was it's been pretty significant.
Super cool, man. For deal makers out there, right, who are looking at projects and they're, maybe looking at this project versus this project. And let's go like rehab versus ground up.
Mm-hmm.
What are some things to consider before they pull the trigger on let's just say they could only choose one deal?
Depends on what your market is, what your product is you're looking for, right? But doing your due diligence and making sure that the municipality you're looking to build or renovate in is going to let you do what you want to do. Mm-hmm. That's key. And making sure all the zoning classifications and all the other, bureaucratic nonsense that we love to pile on, make sure it all works for you first before you get too far down the road and can't turn back. We do studies all the time for folks who ask that very question. Well, why do I want to build new when I can buy this for cheaper and renovate? And, we do budgeting comparisons, and we can show you, dollar for dollar what it's going to be. And it really will go back to that lifespan we talked about a little bit ago. Yes, this new building may cost you, 25, 30% more today, but in 10 years, this old building we renovate is going to need all this maintenance that you may be at a disadvantage at that point. So do your due diligence, have somebody on your team that can really guide you and help you make these comparisons.
Yeah, totally. The so you're building this out, and you say you need to expand your vision even more, right? Your coaches, your mentors are going, hey man, your vision's too small. And you're like, dude, I just 30x this business. We're growing in people. We're increasing our footprint, adding new product lines and all those sorts of stuff. And they're saying, nope, not big enough. In your mind, what are some things that you need to overcome between your own ears to get there? And what might that even look like?
Between my own ears, it's still this overwhelming imposter syndrome that I think every entrepreneur has it, and I don't think it ever goes away, because we're always told and taught like you got to work for somebody else, and when you don't work directly for someone else, that there's a lot of headspace you got to be able to figure out. So, that's my challenge constantly as far as what my vision looks like. I want to take the company to levels that our market has never seen. We're gonna do as much as the big guys. We're not going to have these massive layers of inefficiencies and employees and sub-employees and assistant employees just to fill roles. Mm-hmm. But we're doing it, and we're proof now at this level that we can do pretty tremendous revenue with a pretty lean and mean team. So I'm starting to build that strategically and build those systems so that now at this level, I know what we need and I can just apply the multiplier to it. And we're going to be doing incredible numbers, but still very lean. And that's, I think, is the key to weather any of these storms that we're all going through right now.
What is your superpower in the business? And you can't say culture anymore because obviously, like you're like culture was the number one thing. Take out that because
Yes.
you've proven that. What is your number one superpower after that?
I've always had an ability to get very strategic and to think very critically and to see through a lot of the BS. So I told you I went to school. My degree is actually in psychology. I don't talk about that a whole lot, but in all honesty, being able to connect and communicate with people from the guy literally digging the ditch to Fortune 500 CEOs, that takes a lot of ability to pivot, a lot of ability to kind of chameleon almost, and being able to communicate with everyone has always been key.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Resources to learn and grow for other construction companies out there. Obviously, the Construction Corner podcast show. What are some other? Yeah, man, absolutely. What other resources have you found that were really helpful for you to learn and grow?
Honestly, it's my competitors now, and just ask the questions, right? I have guys now that we're direct competition, and they'll call me out of the blue and ask my advice on something. Hey, what are you doing to solve this problem today? And I'm not going to give away the farm. I'm not going to tell you what my magic sauce is, but we have these communication and these discussions, and we're all part of the same team in a broad level, right? And if they're doing well and I'm doing well, then now we're all doing a lot better. And just have the conversations, find the people who are doing what you want to do and get as close to them as you can.
Now, when it comes to competition, right? So in my own backyard, there's a guy doing the same exact thing as me. How do I know if I'm asking him for advice or her for advice? They're not going to give me the worst advice ever just to screw me up.
Yeah, be real careful. you gotta vet out who you're talking to also. And don't expect all the secrets either.
Yeah.
A lot of people I think are very willing to talk about what they do and to tell their stories and cast their vision. And that's what I think you need to kind of glom onto and benefit from. Nobody's going to tell you, hey, here's how you can beat me. That won't happen.
Yeah. So on a construction site, there's many different aspects of it. There's many different skill sets. There's many different jobs, right? Now you're in a role of leadership and you're focused probably in culture, leadership and money, right? And strategy. Yes. What task on a construction site do you get tempted every once in a while to dive back in? You're like, actually, that was a fun. For me, it was demo. Anytime demo shows up, I'm in. Like, I like doing. I'd pay someone to let me demo their their bathroom now. I love it. What about you?
It's twofold. So we don't build with wood a whole lot anymore, but on the occasion we do. And when I walk onto a job site and smell sawdust again, it immediately makes me want to go back and start, banging walls together or something.
Yeah.
On our typical site that has no sign of wood, I would love to jump up in one of those big machines and play like a kid on a Tonka truck for a couple of days, move some dirt.
Hey, I'm building a fence. I already told you about that. If you want to smell some, fresh PT wood, come on, man, we'll build it. So,
there you go.
Yeah. All right. So during this interview, we've talked about deals. We talked about, the decision to, build versus rehab kind of thing. What other questions should I have been asking you in and around, construction and deals that I screwed up and didn't ask you?
The design element. Okay. And the design build model versus the design bid model. So old school construction, you as the owner would go and hire an architect first, and you'd tell the architect roughly what you want and how much money you have. Architect goes and draws you a pretty picture and sells you a big roll of drawings and then takes it out to bid. Mm-hmm. And if the architect was really good, the numbers come back in and they meet your budget and everybody's happy. If the architect wasn't, or he made a mistake, or he doesn't know what he's doing, the numbers come back in and you're left with a really pretty set of drawings that you can't afford. So we kind of flip the script on that model where you find me and you hire me directly as your fiduciary, as your design build partner, and we will go find the design consultants on your behalf and hold those contracts. And that way we can talk very candidly, you and I, about what is your budget? What are you comfortable with spending for this, whatever product it is you need? Now let me go and back into that number so that I can guarantee you when I'm done with the design process, we're going to roll right into construction because it's the same number I told you on day one. Where, you know, and it's not a slight at the architects, because we still work with really great architects, but those guys don't have their pulse, don't have a hand on the pulse rather of the pricing. They're not supposed to. Right. So you need someone that knows that both sides of that table.
Yeah. And that's interesting. So, you know, if you don't have your finger on the pulse of pricing and inflation and all the different, you know, supply chain issues, they might build out something that doesn't exist anymore or that you can't get the supply for. When you're like, yeah, I just bought 30 units and they're in my self-storage right out front, we know the game. Yeah, it's super interesting. I didn't think of that. That is a great value differentiator. How in the world do you then acquire new customers? Like how do people know to go to you first, rather, because the traditional method is, oh, go to an architect or an engineer and work through the process, and then they will refer you to 3 of their buddies, right? That's the normal, that's what's been trained. How do you fight against that a little bit?
So we don't advertise at all in the common sense. It's all word of mouth. It's all referral based. 80 to 90% of our clientele are either repeat clients or they're direct referrals from past clients. Aside from that, you know, we've gotten really heavy into our social media. We post a lot. I say we very broadly, it's me, but, you know, trying to educate the general public on this method of construction. And it's, you know, it's got its pluses and minuses, for sure, but it's worked pretty well for us.
Super cool, man. So, one more question as we're going through. If I grabbed your phone right now and I looked through your number one played song in the past 10, 15 years, what's your number one go-to song? You're driving in a pickup truck, you just picked up some lumber at the lumber yard, you're heading to the job site and you want to put on your number one jam to pump you up and get ready to swing hammers. What is that song?
My wife makes fun of me all the time for this, but
this is good. Go for it.
I listen to Cowboys from Hell by Pantera on my way to every single meeting and sales presentation I've done in the last 15 years.
That's your pump song.
It is. It's my my hype song, you know, but
and it's Pantera's Cowboys and what?
Cowboys from Hell.
Can you sing it for us?
I could, but I'm not going to.
Sounds good. All right, Matt, for deal makers in the audience that want to reach out to you, they might not be, you know, within a 2-hour drive of you, but they still want to pick your brain, maybe get on your show, follow your show, or maybe they're right in your backyard and they want to do a deal with you. How could people find you?
Best way is on LinkedIn, Matt Vetter, Vetter. You can find me with Schafer Construction on all the platforms, but LinkedIn, my personal page, is the easiest and quickest.
Super cool. Super cool. Well, Matt, thanks for coming on the show, talking about construction, commercial construction. Fascinating topic. Love what you guys are doing. Really great value differentiator. I can't believe I said that without stuttering, but great job, man. Thanks for being on the show. Fellow deal makers, thanks for listening in. As always, reach out to our guests and say thanks for being on the show. All their contact information will be in the little thing down below in the contact form thing. So, you know, connect with them, say, hey, heard you on the Deal Scout, and got to figure out a way to do a deal with you. If you're working on a deal and you want to talk about it on the show, head over to thedealscout.com, fill out a quick form. Maybe we'll talk to you on the next episode about a deal. Till then, see you guys.